A Course in Miracles, Questions and Answers. What is needed for salvation? Based on A Course in Miracles teachings. Meditation context. Keeping your attention on or in your body will keep you in the present moment. All guilt, regret, resentment, and anger is based on the past. All worry, anxiety, and fear is centered on some point in the future. In the present moment, none of that fear-based negativity exists. The Course in Miracles text is 1,754 pages long, and the main premise is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Each of my meditation videos will all have from 7 to 10 A Course in Miracles quotations, and after each quotation I will have a short meditation. Here is the first Course in Miracles quotation. Quotation: Salvation is God's justice. It restores to your awareness the wholeness of the fragments you perceive as broken off and separate, and it is this that overcomes the fear of death. For separate fragments must decay and die, but wholeness is immortal. A Course in Miracles. We're going to use the 4-7-8 method. The 4-7-8 breathing technique involves breathing in for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: Salvation must reverse the mad belief in separate thoughts and separate bodies, which lead separate lives and go their separate ways. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: The secret of salvation is but this, that you are doing this unto yourself. No matter what the form of the attack, this still is true. Whoever takes the role of enemy and of attacker, still is this the truth. Whatever seems to be the cause of any pain and suffering you feel, this is still true. For you would not react at all to figures in a dream you knew that you were dreaming. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: There is no death, but there is a belief in death. You who fear salvation are choosing death. Your kingdom is not of this world because it was given you from beyond this world. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: appearances can but deceive the mind that wants to be deceived, and you can make a simple choice that will forever place you far beyond deception. You need not concern yourself with how this will be done, for this you cannot understand. Salvation is a paradox indeed. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation: the ego's plan for salvation centers around holding grievances. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable, provided that it will not work. This ensures that the fruitless search will continue. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation: holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Holding grievances is an attempt to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work, yet only His plan will work. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation: how much do you desire peace instead of endless strife and misery and pain? Forgiveness is your peace, for herein lies the end of separation and the dream of danger and destruction, sin and death, of madness and of murder, grief and loss. This is the sacrifice salvation asks, and gladly offers peace instead of this. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. Quotation: forgive and you will see this differently. These are the words the Holy Spirit speaks in all your tribulations, all your pain, all suffering, regardless of its form. These are the words with which temptation ends, and guilt, abandoned, is revered no more. These are the words which end the dream of sin and rid the mind of fear. These are the words by which salvation comes to all the world. A Course in Miracles. In-breath. Hold. Out-breath. The question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, what is needed for salvation? The quotations that best elaborate on this will be shown here now. The text that I highlighted in green says, there is no death, but there is a belief in death. You who fear salvation are choosing death. This appears to imply that choosing to fear salvation is to choose death Yet there is no death, only a belief in death. Again, the question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, what is needed for salvation? And another quotation that best elaborates on this is shown here now. The text that I highlighted in green says, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Only His plan will work. This appears to be saying that there is only one plan that will work, God's plan, and that holding grievances instead of choosing forgiveness is to attack God's plan for salvation. Again, the question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, what is needed for salvation? And another quotation that best elaborates on this is shown here. The text that I highlighted in green says, how much do you desire peace instead of endless strife and misery and pain? Forgiveness is your peace. This is the sacrifice salvation asks. This seems to be saying that salvation asks of a sacrifice to be made, which is forgiveness, and that peace of mind is the result of choosing forgiveness. And once again, the question posed at the beginning of this meditation was, what is needed for salvation? And the final quotation I have that best elaborates on this is shown here. The text that I highlighted in green says, forgive and you will see this differently. These are the words the Holy Spirit speaks. These are the words which end the dream of sin and rid the mind of fear. These are the words by which salvation comes to all the world. And this appears to state that salvation can come to the world and end the dream of sin and remove fear from the minds of man if forgiveness is chosen. Space Eternity Meditation. We're going to take an imaginary trip with your consciousness, and during this imaginary trip, we'll leave your body behind. To begin, see yourself standing in a large grass field. You've been given the ability to travel into space and to go anywhere you like. You don't have to worry about oxygen, collisions, or anything else, because only your consciousness will be traveling into space. You now have the intention and decide to go straight up into the sky. You are now flying up into the clouds. You then decide to pause and take a look around. You look down and see cities, streets, towns, and hills. Now you have the intention and decide to continue flying straight up. You are now in outer space, and it's mostly darkness with lights from stars and distant planets. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. At this point, you decide to go straight ahead in a horizontal direction. Meteors, planets, and other phenomena are racing by you. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. You again decide to continue in the same direction. You continue, and you have now traveled a significant distance while moving extremely fast. You then think to yourself, when will I reach the end of this universe or of this solar system? How will I know when I've gone as far as I can possibly go? You then realize that either there is an upcoming wall of some sort, or space just continues on. And you think to yourself, if there is some sort of a wall ahead of me, what about straight above me? Is there some sort of a wall there too? And what about straight below me and behind me? Is this universe or solar system contained in some sort of a box? Is outer space confined by a box with walls? And if so, what is behind the walls of this box? You think to yourself, if outer space is confined by a box and I go through one of the walls of the box into outer space again, then when does that space end? Is there another box enclosing the box that I just exited from? You then realize that the only thing that makes sense is that there are no walls or boxes in outer space, that space just keeps on going endlessly for an infinite distance. You realize that infinity is the only thing that makes sense when it comes to outer space. Okay, we're going to do a timelessness meditation. And again, take long, slow, deep breaths, but very relaxed. Don't make an effort of it. Okay, we're going to take a look at time now. To begin, see yourself standing on a long, almost endless sandy beach. You hear a loud, gentle, kind voice, and it says, each grain of sand on this beach is equal to a 100-year lifetime. And there are millions of beaches just like this one, with trillions of grains of sand on each one. How many lifetimes do you think you have? You have an infinite number of lifetimes for all of eternity. As you breathe in, see your consciousness diving down into a grain of sand. As you dive down into it, you see that everything is large, and you see that it resembles planet Earth. There are oceans and mountains and vegetations within this grain of sand that you just took a dive into. You keep diving down into the single grain of sand and feel as though you've been there before. It starts to look very familiar. You then realize that you will be starting a new life there, an entire new lifetime from birth to death. And you remember what you were told, that each grain of sand is equivalent to one lifetime, and that there are millions of beaches with trillions of grains of sand on each beach. You begin to sense what timelessness is. You begin to understand how time can just keep going on and continue endlessly, just like outer space. You realize that you are not the body that you see, that you instead are the spirit that surrounds the body. You remember that you've been told that you are energy, and that energy cannot be created or destroyed. You realize that you are an infinite being living in a timeless universe with no end. The body is just a costume.